tried to be the kind of woman you wanted me to be. And it's not your fault that I tried to be what I thought you wanted.
So one of the things that was fun with Women's Kit was to take some of the and there was backlash, of course, to take some of the backlash and then analyze it. Now, I love this. This was 1972 in the Toronto Star. Women themselves will kill women's lib. So how women, because they didn't agree, because there were different theories and ideas in the women's movement, they were going to fight like cats, as if you couldn't, in a complex movement, change of the way people think, you couldn't have different points of view and you couldn't debate them. So we could take something like Braithwaite being a fool, and then Angela Miles could analyze it and talk about the women's movement. Here's a record, little teeny weeny record from the olden days when this is a record, girls and boys. This is a really 35 RPM, but it looks like a 45, meaningless to you. But anyway, so that was a record done by a student, a high school student, who was a student of one of the women, Maggie Feldberg, who contributed. So Karen and her boyfriend selected some of the most sexist lyrics of the time and then played it a little bit, and then he read it. And he just read it in his voice, like she selected, and had him read what these wonderful groups that we all loved, like the Stones and the Beatles and some of them, were actually saying to us, just to remind us where we're at.
We got a lot of little teenage blue-eyed groupies who do anything we say.
We got a lot of little teenage blue-eyed groupies who do anything we say.
So some of the material in the kit, in addition to the record, there's a piece called You Are What You Play about toys, and that was done by a student. I remember at one point I wanted to do a piece on starting your period. And so we had a kind of drop-in invite, whatever, no email, so called people and got a bunch of women there at Eve Zaremba's place at DuPont and Avenue Road. It was called the Women's Place. And people came and just we talked about starting your period. Now, it was shocking that there were still people, including one fairly young woman, who had started her period without knowing what it was. I couldn't believe it. I mean, that happened to my grandmother, for goodness sakes. But, that was a long time ago. So it was just amazing. Anyway, we didn't actually use, I think I might have taped that, but I didn't actually end up using it because it got so personal, it wasn't comfortable. And maybe I didn't tape it, I don't even remember. But we did have a piece in called, I put it in called Rite of Passage. And talking about that this is an event, this is a big event. And in many places it's celebrated, or in some places becomes oppressive to women. But anyway, one of the coolest things that we did for the Women's Kit was to get in touch with Nell Hull-Humphreys. Now, she had been referenced in the book The Lace Ghetto, and she was one of the original suffragettes. She had been a young girl in Britain during the fight for getting the vote, and I did a record, which was the interview with her.
See, we had so many men against us that you'd sometimes wonder if, you'd all be dead perhaps before anything really happens. And I think that's why I felt that burning things wasn't a wrong thing to do, because men are more concerned about property than they are about people. And of course the insurance people also were very concerned.
She is so wonderful. And to hear her very lovely sort of proper accent, talking about, you know, her mother putting the brick through the big plate glass window, and etc. The various fires. I mean, these women were something else. And I remembered when I was a kid that in our history classes we might see little speeded up pictures of the suffragettes marching. I always found them embarrassing. They seemed so funny and silly. No, they weren't. They were really revolutionary. And one of the things Nell gave us, she gave us the original of the letter she wrote from jail to her father, articles about her being force-feeding. And we had all that in the kit. We had a list of all the women who were arrested and so forth. So that was a great connection. And somehow also, I don't know who connected me with this woman, but there was a young woman who'd been in training school who got in trouble with the law. And we did a whole series on that. And that's another record.
They teach you there that you are bad, that society doesn't want people like you, that you're no good, you know, and you're never going to amount to anything. They tell you about Vanier and about Kingston's own penitentiary and everything, and they say, well, this is going to happen to you, know, stuff. They say, once you start out as a criminal and go to training school, you're automatically going to end up in a penitentiary, and you're going on and on. So it makes you look at yourself like a piece of rot, you know.
That was a very interesting connection. So it was fun, you know. You can't have revolution if you don't have fun. I think that's true.
Smiling face, shining hair, clothes that I thought you'd like me to wear. Made to please, but not to tease. It's the custom-made woman blues. I tried to be